I have here a basket of Japanese quinces. I was out walking the other day and we came across a large Japanese quince tree overhanging a garden fence. And I was just admiring them and saying to Jenny, wow, look at the quinces on that tree. They'd be fantastic for making quince jelly. And the owner of the house came out and said, you want them? So, anyway, I've picked, that's not a quince, that's an apple. So I've picked some Japanese quinces. Today we're going to make quince jelly. Actually, quince and apple and pear jelly. So I've got these quinces. There's probably a couple of kilos there. I'm not going to bother weighing them. I've also got some apples, just random apples from hedgerows and various other places, and some pears. First thing to do is wash all of this lot. So quinces, you just saw me tip them in here rather unceremoniously. They're like these Japanese quinces. They're like a really, really hard apple. They are related to apples and pears, the cockney fruit. The Japanese quince is a very thorny bush. We've got a bit of twig there. I'll get rid of that. My apples and pears are going to go in here as well. Just going to give them a nice wash. We'll just have a look at the inside of one of these quinces. They are quite hard. So immediately you can see that's not the same as an apple. And Japanese quinces look like this. The other kind of quince, which is related but not very closely, is different again inside. It's more like a pear inside. Anyway, I'm just going to cut these up into pieces and they're going to go in my new big stock pot. I'm not bothering to remove the seeds or anything. They're all going to get boiled in the mix. It was heavily hinted by the kind donor of these quinces that he would appreciate a jar of quince jelly in repayment for his generosity. So of course I will let him have a jar of the jelly we're making here. The seeds in quinces, you wouldn't want to eat them. Like many fruits in this family, they contain cyanogenic glycosides. So if you were to eat these seeds, they would react with the acid in your stomach and produce cyanide, which is not good for you. But cooking will generally destroy those things. And we're also going to be straining all of this anyway. So why not take them out anyway if they're that dangerous? Well, the seeds will contain some pectins, which will help the jelly to set. But also, when you cook things like this, you transform those dangerous chemicals into delicious chemicals. And I think benzaldehyde, the cherry or almond flavoured chemical, is one of the derivatives of cooking those cyanogenic glycosides. A couple of other things about these quinces. I've been cutting them lengthways like that, and that makes it just look like there's a huge seed cavity inside. But if we cut it this way, you can see those seeds are divided up into cavities. I was going to say five-fold symmetry, but we've got more than five there. I think more commonly, I think it's five-fold symmetry, which is more usual for things in the rose family. But clearly not limited to five, because we've got 7 there. The other thing you might be wondering is, what are these like if you eat them raw? Well, they're very hard and almost woody to start with. These are ripe, but I'll taste a little bit just to satisfy your curiosity. Very sour. Also quite astringent, so they're drying out my tongue. And there are bitter flavours in there as well. So definitely not something you'd want to eat raw. I mean, perhaps when they're very, very ripe, when they're almost rotten, bletted, they might be edible in that state. I don't know. But yeah, very sour, like a very sour apple flavour, plus astringent, so mouth-puckeringly dry, like a sloe, and also bitter. So that's all the quinces cut up and done. Apples and pears are going to be the same. Just cut them into smallish pieces and get them in there. So that's all my fruit cut up. And then I'm just going to add enough water to cover the pieces. That's about right. So just enough water, to just cover the pieces. Lid on, bring to the boil, and then we'll simmer that until they're all soft. Okay, that's boiling now. So I will turn that down to just a gentle simmer, so it's just blipping away. The apples and pears have already started to fall apart. The quinces will take slightly longer, although not that long by the look of it. So I think that's probably only going to need about 10 minutes simmering. It has taken a while to get up to boiling point though. So probably about half an hour's total heating and boiling. Yeah, so probably about half an hour in total. And we can see now everything is soft and just breaking up. This mixture is going to be strained through a muslin square. I think to get really crystal clear jelly, you'd probably use 2 thicknesses or perhaps more thicknesses of muslin. I've got 2, but I think I'm going to need 2 for the volume of strain. So I'm probably not going for a show quality clarity here. These are brand new cloths. I like to just prepare them by putting them in a bit of boiling water just to get rid of the manufacturing smell off them. So I'll just give that a nice wash in boiling hot water, then in cold water, wring it out, and then it'll be ready to use. So this is the straining setup. Colander, the purpose of which is to just support the muslin cloth. And then this strainer is just to keep the colander elevated above the bowl. And that's it. I'm going to now tip the stuff in there and strain it. And when I say tip, I mean carefully ladle. There's no way I'd try and pick up that great big stock pot and pour it in there. That would just be a recipe for scalded arms. You can hear it running. Now, I'm not going to squeeze this at all. This is just going to drip through via gravity. If you squeeze it, you get fibres and pulp coming through the cloth, and that will make the jelly cloudy. I don't know that we're going to get a perfectly clear jelly anyway. So that's somewhat less than half of it. I'm just going to let that drip for a bit. I'll have another vessel on standby, just a large pan, because, yeah, that jug's nearly full up now. Right, here comes the really fun part. I've got some string here. I've just made a little noose, and I'll just pick up the 4 corners of this cloth, pass those through the noose and pull it tight. And then also belt and braces, we'll just do a couple of loops round and an overhand knot. Pull that tight. Then that I'm going to hang up off of one of the cupboard handles and just let it drain like that into the other pan probably. So there's what that looks like. It'll stop spinning after a while, but it's just dripping. Now some people leave that dripping overnight because the juice will take a long time to percolate through the pulp. But that's why I need my other cloth, because that's only half the pulp. Yeah, here's a slightly more mobile view of the setup. So those are hanging on the cupboards there. That's the second one I did, which has still got a very thin stream of juice running there. This one is reduced to a drip now. But yeah, we could leave those there for hours and they will continue to drip. So yeah, now it is just drip, drip, drip. Now we can just cool this off anytime we like and run with what we've got. So I've got this much juice plus that. It does look cloudy at the moment, but when I boil it with sugar, I think most of this, whatever's making it cloudy in here, which is probably a little bit of cellulose fibre, will float up and we can skim it off, and I think we'll still end up with a clear jelly. Okay, that's been there for a couple of hours now. There is still dripping going on, but it's very much diminishing returns at this point. So I'm going to call it there. We'll measure the juice. You need to add half a kilo of sugar for every 750 mils of juice. This jug, when filled to that line there, is 2 litres. So that's 2 litres into my stock pot. Probably don't need this bigger vessel for this, but we might as well, because I can boil it really hard without worrying about it boiling over. And I'll measure the remaining juice in a jug with finer graduations. But you can see this juice is kind of gloopy already. So I keep calling it juice, but it's really, this has got a lot of the boiled out pectin in it. I'll have a little taste. It's going to be super sour. Yeah. So then in there, we've got half a litre. So I've got 2.5 litres I will just do my calculation for sugar. 2.5 divided by 750 times 500 is 1.66 kilos, or 1,666 grams. So that's a whole kilo of sugar there. And I also need another 666 grams. So yes, that is a lot of sugar. But interestingly, a lot less sugar than some jelly recipes call for. I need to bring that to the boil until all the sugar's dissolved, and then boil it till it's 105 degrees Celsius, which is the set point. I don't actually know how many jars this is going to require, so I'll provision these in the same way that I normally do. Sterilising them, I put them upside down on a tray like this, put them in the oven, heat them to 160 Celsius and hold them there for 20 minutes. The lids I will sterilise in some boiling water with a little bit of Milton, which is a hypochlorite based sterilising fluid. Then when I bottle the jelly, I'll just quickly turn over a jar, fill it up, cap it, and the heat of the jar plus the heat of the jelly inside will sterilise it completely. A lot of people keep telling me that I need to do the water bath method, and that's fine if you want to do that. If you want to be really, really sure that you've sterilised everything, then you put the jars in a water bath, bring it to a boil. But this method has never failed for me, and I've been doing this for decades. The sugar is now dissolved, and it's coming to the boil, and a couple of things have happened here. One is that the colour has changed. It's gone from a fresh pear colour to a tawny amber colour. But the other thing that's happened is this scum has formed on the top here. And when I clear that away, we've actually got quite a clear jelly underneath. So I think all this thing about don't squeeze your jelly bag because you'll get cloudy juice and you'll get a cloudy jelly might be nonsense. Because I have a feeling that once the sugar's in there and it's boiling, all of those cloudy bits will form this scum and float up anyway. There might be other good reasons not to squeeze the jelly bag. One is that when you're filling it, the stuff you're putting in there is boiling hot. So putting your hands all over it's probably not a great idea. The other might be that it might split and squirt the contents everywhere. But yeah, I think maybe the traditional wisdom about not squeezing your jelly bag because your jelly will be cloudy might not be true. Anyway, we need to boil this now. As we did with the jam in a recent video, the set point will be determined by the temperature, and what we're indirectly measuring here is the sugar concentration. So once it's reduced sufficiently that the boiling point has gone up to 105, that means we're at the set point because we've driven off enough water to concentrate the juice and sugars down to the set point. At the moment we're only just at 100, so we've got a way to go. So we're currently at about 103.5 on the jelly, and you can see the colour has really changed. And now I'm going to think about taking this froth out of here. There's nothing inedible about this froth, but it would just mar the appearance of the jelly if it's on top of the jars. And certainly if it's given as gifts to people, then when people open a jar of jelly, they don't want to see a white patch on top in case they think it's mould. Right, I'll give it one more little skim just before we are finished. It's actually quite uncomfortable. I probably should have used a smaller pan for this, but actually you can probably see how much this is reduced down. Yeah, it's quite uncomfortable holding my arm in here to wait for the thermometer to read, but I think we're about 103.5 at the moment, so we've got a little way to go still. But the good news is the clarity of the jelly is increasing by the minute. Just moving the probe around in there actually really just to make sure that we've got an accurate reading. You might have a little hot spot. Yeah, we're at 103.5. So a few more minutes of boiling. Right, I believe we're close to the set point now. Let's just have a quick look. 104.5. You can almost judge where we're at by looking at the consistency of the stuff. You can see it's a lot thicker now. Now, if I'd added more sugar to juice, a lot of recipes have 600 ml of juice to 500 grams of sugar. I did 750 ml of juice to 500 of sugar. If we'd added the full amount of sugar, we'd have reached the set point earlier, and in fact we'd have had more jelly. But by condensing it down, we're going to have more flavour. We're going to have more of the fruit acids, more of the aroma of the quinces in the jelly. So we'll have a more concentrated jelly, but still at a set point. The jars and my jam funnel have had their time in the oven to sterilise. And I timed this just so that the last little bit of cooking of the syrup gives us enough time for these to just cool down a little bit, so that we're not putting 105 degree jelly into 160 degree jars. I've also timed it so that the heat of the oven isn't going to be wasted. So that's my potato wedges for dinner going in. So over here, we're just going to allow those to cool down a little bit because at the moment they're too hot to touch anyway. But also, as I say, yeah, so these would be heated up to 160 Celsius. If we put the jelly in there, even though the jelly is hotter than boiling water, there could still be thermal shock because the jelly is only 105 degrees Celsius. These are somewhere around 160. Right, so that's it. That was 105. Time now to fill the jars. Now, they are just about cool enough to touch. And the colour of this jelly is quite remarkable. The colour change from since when it was just juice is amazing. So I'll fill these jars up to the shoulder. Like that. Okay. And then funnel goes into the next jar. Lid, and get it promptly on. And done up, done up tight. Ow, the jar is really scalding hot now. I wish you could smell this. It's like a combination of apples and pears. There's almost like a honey aroma in there as well, which I suspect might just be because the sugar has been inverted by the boiling with all the acid juice of the fruits. So we've kind of made fake honey, although this is not honey because this is going to set as jelly. Now these bubbles on the top here would lose me points in a show, but I'm not taking this to a show, so I'm not unduly worried about that. I've run out of jars. I have to put some in a little dish, but that's fine because we can taste that tomorrow. Okay, the rest is going to go into unsterilised ramekin, but that's fine because that is going to be for breakfast tomorrow. So look at that, 8 jars, well 8 and a small one. So this is bon maman, this must be bon bébé, and some for breakfast tomorrow morning. But that's more than I thought we were going to make. So guess what people are getting for Christmas? Now that needs to set. It'll probably take overnight, but it might take actually more than just one day to set. Sometimes the pectin set on a jelly can take like a week to properly set. So I'm going to put those away somewhere, let them cool, let them set, and we'll have a closer look at them when that's happened. So just to reiterate, because I know some people really did struggle with this idea in the purple jam video. So these jars were sterilised in the oven by heating up to 160 degrees Celsius, and they were upside down, which reduces the opportunity for pathogens to get inside the jar. The lids were sterilised in boiling water with Milton sterilising fluid, which is a hypochlorite bleach. And then the jars were filled boiling hot, in fact hotter than boiling hot, boiling syrup hot, and capped immediately. So anything that might have floated in while we were faffing around and I was talking to the camera is going to be killed by the residual heat in the jar there. These lids, as I'm sitting here, they're too hot to touch as this is cooling down. So anything that got inside the jar is going to be polished off by that heat. Plus there is also, of course, the acidity and the sugar content of the jelly, which will inhibit things like botulism. If you're canning other things that are not acidic and are not sugary, then yeah, you definitely need to do the other methods. But for jam and jelly that's sugary and acidic, this method has never failed me. While we're here, let me show you the beautiful colour of this jelly. Isn't that an amazing transformation? A few hours later, we've got a lovely set. It might even be a little bit too firm, but we'll see. We'll test it in the morning. So I've just printed up some simple labels. I'll get them stuck on. Nothing fancy. I don't think that will fit on there. We'll just have to remember what's in that one. The following morning, yeah, we got a very nice firm set there. Like I say, I think that might be a little bit firmer than I might have desired. The notion with a jelly like this is it should be just set enough that it melts when you put it on something warm, such as, although probably not traditional, a slice of warm toast. So this is the bread that I made in the cider video, by the way. Tiny little bit dried out, but that makes it perfect for toasting. So yeah, a quince jelly wouldn't traditionally, I think, be served with toast. It's A traditional accompaniment for salty roast meats like gammon, or strongly flavoured meats like different kinds of game, or perhaps with highly flavoured cheese as well. I will try at least one of those things in this video, but for now we're just going to have a little bit on toast. And in fact, before that, I think I'll just taste it a little bit completely as it is. So yeah, very nice wobbly jelly, beautiful colour, quite delicate texture, deeply fruity. Quinces taste a bit like apples and pears anyway, so the whole flavour complex of apples, pears and quinces has combined into one thing. It is quite fruity and aromatic and delicious. And there is an ever so slight astringency to it, but not in any kind of an overwhelming or overpowering way. So, nice little warm slice of toast. Butter is cold, so we'll just give it a chance to warm through on the toast. The kitchen is actually cold, but that will just melt for a moment on the toast. Okay, and while this toast is still warm, let's test out if this jelly does melt onto it. I have a generous amount on there. Yeah, so it is actually melting in the warmth of the toast, which is good. That's what I wanted. Okay. Quince, pear and apple jelly on toast. Wonderful. Now, part of what makes this so nice is it's got really good acidity. It's really nice and tangy and sharp, at the same time as having a honey-like richness and sweetness. Well, that is enough to declare that a definite success, but we'll try it with a couple of other things before we're done. One way I would just like to try this is a variation on one of my favourite sandwiches, which is to get a split croissant. Normally I'd have cheddar cheese, bacon, sour cherry jam. Today we're going to have a variation on that, so I'm going to have some cream cheese, bacon, and some of this quince and pear and apple jelly. So this hopefully will give me a feel for what this is like with salty, fatty meats. You could use this jelly for glazing a gammon, or just for serving with something salty like a gammon ham, or something rich and fatty like a roast duck. Anyway, let's give that a try. It's good. It's good like that. The acidity and astringency of the jelly cuts through the grease of the bacon. I think in days gone by, it used to be believed that these would be an aid to digestion. These sort of sour, astringent jellies would help you digest fatty meats. I have no idea whether that's true, but it's a combination that certainly works. So we will try one more thing before we're done in this video. I think we'll try it with some cheese. Okay, kind of a ploughman's lunch, really. So, just a little tour around the plate here. I've got a lovely russet apple. I love russet apples. These are some of my bread rolls from my cider making video. These are a couple of little chickens from the Hen and Chickens loaf. Shrimp cottage pickle from another video last year or year before. The quince jelly from the video you're now watching. Then some lovely butter, cheddar, mature red Leicester, some goat cheese, some soft goat cheese, and a blue cheese from Somerset called Moody Blue, which I've never tried before. And a pint of my foaming atomic shrimp nettle beer, nettle brow. So what a treat. I think first actually I'm just going to taste a little bit of this cheese, because like I say, I've not tasted this blue cheese before. So let's do that now. It wasn't really enough of a taste. Nice, interesting. Drier and more crumbly than a Stilton. Nice blue cheese flavour, but not overpowering. Lovely creamy buttery flavour. Slight floral note from somewhere. There are earthy and nutty notes in there as well. Really good. Okay, so I think that cheese is a good foil for some of this quince jelly. So I think probably what I'll do is actually just cut a little piece of cheese first and just try literally the cheese with the quince jelly. I've opened the little jar because we've actually used up that extra bit, and this little jar, because it didn't have big thermal mass, this one won't keep for a long time because it didn't stay hot for long. Wow, that with cheese is a mind-blowingly good combination. The two things just bring each other alive. What a amazing play of flavours. Anyway, let's have a bit of bread and butter, a bit of goat cheese. Yeah, a bit more of this with some goat cheese. It's like a flavour enhancer. So, you know, if you like goat cheese, for the fact that it's goat cheese, you'll be aware of that kind of goaty flavour that you get in goat cheese. This just enhances that in a really good way. That's still standing up really well, that beer. Okay. A bit of my lovely juicy russet apple. I think some people are put off from eating russet apples because of the rough skin, but there's a wealth of different flavours in these varieties of apples. This one's got a citrus note to it, and a kind of floral herbal note as well, a bit like geraniums, but not in a bad way, and something a bit like pears as well. Okay, I need to try this. I don't know that I did. I think I did taste this shrimp cottage pickle in a previous video sometime, but let's give that another taste now, because this has been maturing for a couple of years now. This is an elderberry and vegetable chutney. That is just so good. That is really tasty now. The flavours have all mellowed and matured and combined, and it's a nice vintage chutney now. Really good. So there we go. That was quince jelly. There are lots of other things you can do with quince jelly. So you could make little jam tarts, would be rather nice actually with quince jelly in them. Really nice thin short crust pastry in a tart case, and this jelly would just melt and bubble and then set inside those pastry cases. That might be a future video. The other popular usage for quince jelly is to glaze roast meats like duck or gammon or any kind of roast meat really. And I might well do that as well sometime. But for now, that was my quince jelly. I hope that's been an interesting video. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you again soon.